Welcome to the 2020 Monumental Moments Cemetery Tour. This video is brought to you by a collaboration between the City of Hillsboro, TVCTV, and the Hillsboro Historical Society. Every other fall, we come together to present a living history tour at the Hillsboro Pioneer Cemetery, where some of the earliest residents of this city are now at rest. For each tour, the Historical Society chooses a group of burials and compiles life stories about those people, based on local historical and genealogical research. Normally, visitors would come and walk through the graveyard, while actors dressed in period clothing would present monologues at each grave. Sadly, however, we could not do the tour in person this year due to COVID-19. So, for the first time ever, Monumental Moments will be presented as a video series. For our latest tour, we focused on the road to Hillsboro, how people that came to America in different ways all ended up making a final home in this city. Immigrants in the 19th century came to America from many different countries, classes, religions, and traditions. They all dreamt of owning land and being free to prosper and make their own fate. Each video in this series presents two of those early travelers who came to settle in the Hillsboro area. This time on Monumental Moments.
Hello, my name is Sarah Robinson Bagley, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my life. I was born in Rugby, Warwickshire, England, on the 31st of March, 1845. My father worked as a guard on the newly built Rugby railway station, and we lived on the road that connected it to the town. Most of the families who lived on that road also worked for the railway. It was hard work, but it made Rugby a centre for industry. We could hear trains all night and all day. By the time I was 16, I'd left home to go and earn my own wages, and I worked as a servant in the home of a local surveyor. The house where I worked is still standing, although I hear that it's been turned into a business district. One of the saddest parts of my teenage years was when the 4-year-old son of my employers passed away. Winters were such a difficult time for young children in those days. But on to happier things. When I was 21, I married William Wright Bagley in 1866. And that same year, we immigrated to the United States, to Canton, Ohio. It was such an exciting time to sail across the Atlantic with others who were looking for a better life, with more prospects than they could have had. It was about a 9 or 10-day voyage across the Atlantic, and my goodness, we were seasick for most of those days. In time, other members of the Robinson family, including my parents, joined us there. Many of them worked in the machine shops, producing mechanical reapers that had been pioneered by Cyrus McCormack. The production of farming machinery was a booming industry, and they kept busy. My husband William worked as a machinist there, and I kept house as our family grew. We had 6 children in Ohio. Their names were William, Lily, George, John, Harry, and Nellie. But we had sadness of our own when our sweet little John, who was named after my father and my oldest brother, passed away. In 1885, we moved here to Washington County, Oregon, to a small community named Laceyville, which is about 3.5 miles north of Hillsboro. William changed careers and became a hop farmer. And as you know, the farmer's wife works just as hard as the farmer. Hops were an important cash crop, and they provided for our family for many years. The production of hops in Oregon was more than in any other place in the United States, and a special railroad siding was built so that our hops could be shipped to all parts of the country. I remember when family and friends and neighbors would all come together to bring in the crop in late August and early September. There are still some hop farms in the area. You can tell by the tall trellises where the hops grow. Now let me tell you about a couple of my sons, Harry and George. They both practiced law and were both deputy district attorneys for Washington County. Harry eventually became the mayor of Hillsboro, serving 2 terms from 1910 to 1915. He ran on the Progressive Republican ticket with a promise to start paving the roads of Hillsboro. After winning the election, he gave the order to pave 12 blocks of downtown Hillsboro. The business district was wonderful and it made transportation so much easier. Sadly, Harry died too early at age 44 in the 1919 flu epidemic. George had a law firm in Hillsboro and also became the circuit court judge for both Washington County and Tillamook County, a post he had for nearly 25 years. George sold some of his land in downtown Hillsboro to the city for $1, and the city developed that land into the second park in its history, and it was named Bagley Park in his honor. Sadly, William and I split after about 50 years, although we both continued to live here in Hillsboro. William is buried at Scotch Church with his second wife, Elizabeth. But now, as I enter my 80th year, I look back on all the wonderful parts of my life, all the progress that has been made, and I know that the future is bright for my grandchildren.
Keep watching to learn about another Hillsboro resident from the past.
Yes, would to God I were among the roses that lean to kiss you as you float between, while on the lowest branch a bud uncloses, a bud uncloses to touch you, Queen. Nay, since you will not love what I were growing, a happy daisy in the garden path, that so your silver foot might press me going, might press me going, even unto death.
My name's William Baldr. I was born 1810 over in England, and I've been asked here to tell you my story, and I'm going to tell you my story. So I'm going to take you back to England, and I'm going to get you out here with me. Now listen up. It's going to be an unvarnished story, and it's going to be the truth. We started out here on the backside of England in Yorkshire. Now, my first wife died a year after I married her in 1834. In 1835, I married Marie Calaby. Now, Marie Calaby, that family was, well, a little shocked that I married her so quick, especially with my background and having no thieving problems and stuff growing up. But we married after Marie insisted I get married in a church. So we got married, and I knew I needed to leave there. I wasn't coming to Oregon, I was leaving someplace. And I left Yorkshire by signing on with the Hudson's Bay Company. When I say Hudson's Bay, signing on, I mean I made my mark on some piece of paper that said I was working for them for 5 years. I had no education, neither did Marie. I was just a kid growing up over there working in the fields as soon as I could work. Marie, she learned how to do seamstress stuff. And in case I forget, this is a handmade dress that Maria made. And she was very good, and she was a very kind person. In 1836, we came around on a coal steamer, and we got on a Hudson's Bay cargo ship called the Prince Albert. There was 12 other couples too with us. So we sailed from London around back up on top of England over to the Hudson's Bay. And I told Maria, my wife, it's only 6 weeks, Maria, we're almost there, and then we're out of here. Well, Maria was 5 months pregnant, so she wasn't too happy, but she said she would, and she's very nice, never complained. So we went on that cargo ship, and we were in Hudson's Bay, where we was gonna go to work at a Hudson's Bay settlement there. And Hudson's Bay froze in, and that was in August. It froze in August, and I knew right then and there you couldn't grow up there. That was the worst place to grow. If you had ice in August, that's a disaster. We went down when they gave us a chance to what they call the Red River area. And really they were trying to cut off the trade route from their competitors. So I went down there and I thought they really wanted us to grow something this time. And then the master cow there, he didn't know what he was doing. He made us plant where he told us, and then he told us what to plant. We knew it wouldn't grow. First year, nothing growed. Second year, didn't grow either. So they sent us on down to Columbia by the York Factory Express down to Fort Vancouver, where there's some guy named McLaughlin put us out on Salvie Island, and I was milking cows at a dairy. The only good thing that ever happened there was we had a beautiful daughter, and her name was Mary Jane. And so Mary Jane was born. We also met Joseph Meek on Salvie Island, but I hated that milking cows. So first chance I got, I moved up to Nisqually, and I farmed up there for 1 year, and of course Hudson's Bay never kept a promise up there either. And then after 5 years, guess where I decided to go? I decided to go down and live in the Hillsboro area. It was the Tualatin Plains back then. I hiked down with my wife, a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and I settled in the Tualatin Plains, right next to our friend Joseph Meek. Now Joseph Meek is quite a character, as you know, and we had a good time down there. And we got 640 acres. And that first year, I remember well, we planted 20 acres of wheat, and it growed like nothing you ever sawed. It just growed. And so that first year, we had no tools, nothing, and we had to use what they call a carriage sickle to harvest that wheat by hand. And Maria even helped, and she laughed at herself. She said, I consider myself a city girl, and now look what I have done in my life. I am out harvesting wheat. And she was a wonderful person. But that's the way it is here. And I was always dependable in that if there was any action to protect anybody or do anything like that, I was there. And the local people here liked me because I was tough and mean, and I took care of issues. Now my wife, Maria, she was kind and nice and entertained. She's a religious one, but we needed that too. And that's what made our life here on the Tualatin Plains. And the people here, we were very lonely, and we would write back and encourage other people to come. And when they would come, we would help them settle down here. And we took in many of a traveler who needed help. But mostly, that was Marie.
Thank you for watching this episode of Monumental Moments. Before we go, it is important to acknowledge that the people buried at the Hillsboro Pioneer Cemetery mostly represent European settlers who came to Oregon after 1840. We know that our choices were limited to the ethnicities within this cemetery, but we always want to remember and honor all the distinct groups that have inhabited this region, from the incredible Kalapuyan tribes that lived here for hundreds of generations to the many cultures that make up the diverse international urban sprawl that we reside in today. Every single person has a different life story, but learning about one another and connecting to our shared past reminds us that we may not be so different after all. Stay tuned for the next episode of All Roads Lead to Hillsboro.
Me gliding by so good. the sun and shade, your robe of lawn will dapple, your robe of lawn and your hair spun gold.